Ambassador Zethkri adjusted his ceremonial robes as he floated toward the massive conference chamber aboard the neutral station Harmony's Edge. The Galactic Council had been preparing for this moment for nearly 2 standard years. Today marked the official invitation ceremony for the newest species to join their ancient alliance, the humans of Sol 3, called Earth by its inhabitants. The chamber buzzed with excited chatter from dozens of species. The tall, graceful Veilthans whispered among themselves in their musical language, their silver skin shimmering under the artificial lights. The stocky Gromar delegates argued loudly about trade routes, their rocky hide clicking as they gestured. Even the usually silent Netherians had emerged from their environmental suits to witness this historic moment. Such a momentous occasion, said Chancellor Vrex, the elderly Altarian who had overseen first contact protocols for over 3 centuries. Her multiple eyes blinked in sequence as she reviewed the datapad containing humanity's preliminary assessments. A species that achieved faster-than-light travel independently, without any guidance from the Council. Remarkable. Zethkri nodded, though something nagged at him. As the Council's chief xenobiologist, he had studied the human files extensively. Their rapid technological advancement was indeed impressive, but their social structure puzzled him. Unlike every other species in the galaxy, humans seem to thrive on conflict and competition rather than cooperation and consensus. The humans had been discovered 18 months ago by a routine Veilthan exploration vessel. The encounter had been peaceful, though the human ship, a sleek military vessel called UES Defiant, had responded to the alien contact with what could only be described as controlled suspicion. The crew had been professional, even friendly, but every human aboard had carried weapons and moved with the fluid precision of trained warriors. "Attention, delegates," announced the station's AI in the universal trade language. "The human delegation's arrival window has begun. Please prepare for the welcoming ceremony." The assembled representatives arranged themselves according to protocol. The Altarians, as the Council's founding species, took the place of honor at the center. The other species arranged themselves in order of their membership seniority, creating concentric circles that would gradually welcome humanity into the galactic community. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. "Where are they?" muttered Grextalk, the Gromar Mining Consortium representative. His species valued punctuality above almost everything else, considering lateness a sign of disrespect. Chancellor Vrex checked her chronometer again. Perhaps they encountered a navigation error. Space is vast, and they are still new to interstellar travel. But Zethkri felt his gill slits flutter with unease. The humans he had met during the preliminary meetings had been obsessively punctual. Their military bearing extended to their civilian scientists and diplomats alike. Something was wrong. Another hour passed before the Council's long-range sensors detected the approaching human vessel. But, as the sensor readings appeared on the main display, confused murmurs rippled through the assembly. "That cannot be correct," whispered Commander Thyss of the Veilthan Navy. "The readings show multiple ships." Zethkri studied the data streaming across his personal display. Instead of the single diplomatic vessel they expected, the humans were approaching with a small fleet. 5 ships, all broadcasting peaceful intentions but unmistakably military in design. "Perhaps they're providing escort for their diplomats," suggested Chancellor Vrex, though her voice carried uncertainty. "Some species are more cautious than others." The human fleet arrived with mechanical precision, taking up defensive positions around the station without being asked. The lead vessel, identified as UES Concordia, requested permission to dock. Its captain, Admiral Sarah Chen, transmitted formal greetings along with an apology for the delayed arrival. "We encountered several interesting phenomena along our route," Admiral Chen explained as her image appeared on the main screen. She was a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. "Our science teams required additional time for analysis. We hope the Council will forgive our tardiness." The human delegation that eventually entered the chamber was unlike any other in the Council's history. While other species sent their best diplomats, philosophers, and scientists, the humans had sent a combination of military officers, engineers, economists, and what they called strategic analysts. Dr. Marcus Webb, the mission's lead diplomat, was a former soldier turned academic. His assistant, Commander Lisa Park, had cybernetic implants that interfaced directly with her equipment. The science team leader, Dr. James Okafor, carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to working in dangerous environments. Honorable delegates of the Galactic Council, Dr. Webb began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber despite his lack of amplification technology. We come before you as representatives of humanity, grateful for this opportunity to join the galactic community. The speech that followed was polite, well-crafted, and completely conventional. Dr. Webb spoke of human excitement about cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, and peaceful coexistence. But Zethkri noticed that every human in the delegation kept glancing at small devices on their wrists, as if monitoring something continuously. Chancellor Vrex presented the formal invitation, a crystalline artifact that had welcomed 47 species into the Council over the past millennium. Each species had traditionally accepted with elaborate ceremonies celebrating their entry into galactic civilization. Dr. Webb accepted the invitation graciously, but, then, said something that sent ripples of confusion through the assembly. We are honored by this gesture, and humanity accepts membership in the Galactic Council with enthusiasm. However, we must request a brief period of consultation before we can formally join your deliberations. Our government requires time to review the Council's charter and procedures. The chamber fell silent. In over 1,000 years of expansion, no species had ever asked for time to consider Council membership after receiving the invitation. Of course, Chancellor Vrex managed after a moment. How much time does humanity require for this consultation? 6 standard months should be sufficient, Dr. Webb replied. We will send our response through appropriate diplomatic channels. The humans departed as efficiently as they had arrived, their escort ships maintaining formation until they jumped back to hyperspace. The Council delegates remained in the chamber long after the humans left, trying to process what had just happened. Did they just politely refuse us? Asked Senator Cleth of the Netherian Republic. Not refuse, corrected Zethkri thoughtfully. They asked for time to read the contract before signing it. It's actually quite logical. Chancellor Vrex activated her personal communicator. I need a complete analysis of human society and military capabilities, she instructed her staff. Something tells me we may have underestimated our newest potential members. 3 months passed before the first disturbing reports reached the Council. Human ships had been spotted throughout the outer territories, not exploring or surveying, but apparently mapping trade routes and defensive positions. They maintained friendly contact with anyone they encountered, but their questions focused heavily on economic data, military strengths, and political relationships between Council member species. They're conducting intelligence-gathering operations, reported Admiral Kestan of the Council Defense Force during an emergency session. Systematic, professional reconnaissance across multiple sectors. Intelligence gathering implies hostile intent, argued Chancellor Vrex. Perhaps they are simply being thorough in their preparation for membership. But the evidence continued to mount. Human vessels had been detected near strategic installations, always maintaining appropriate distances but clearly conducting detailed scans. Their ships carried sensor arrays far more advanced than the Council had suspected, and their stealth capabilities allowed them to observe without being noticed until they chose to reveal themselves. More troubling were the reports from the frontier worlds. Human traders had begun appearing in remote systems, not selling human goods but purchasing rare minerals, advanced alloys, and technological components. They paid well and caused no trouble, but the pattern of their purchases suggested military applications. They're buying everything needed to construct warships, Dr. Yith of the Eltarian Strategic Institute concluded during a classified briefing. Advanced armor plating, weapons-grade focusing crystals, military-spec computer cores. Either they're planning a massive expansion of their fleet, or they're preparing for something we haven't anticipated. Zethkri reviewed the data with growing unease. The humans' behavior followed no pattern exhibited by previous species seeking Council membership. Every other civilization had eagerly embraced galactic society, often struggling to adapt their technologies and social systems to Council standards. The humans seemed to be evaluating the Council rather than seeking acceptance from it. The 4th month brought reports that made the emergency session unusually tense. Human diplomatic missions had begun visiting individual Council member species, bypassing the traditional protocol of working through Council channels. These meetings were always cordial, but they focused on establishing direct trade relationships and mutual defense agreements. "They're trying to fragment the Council's unity," accused Representative Zelmar of the Kraxi Federation. "They want to deal with us individually rather than as a united body. Or they want to understand each member species better," suggested Dr. Yith. "Humans seem to prefer understanding their potential allies thoroughly." Chancellor Vrex found herself in the uncomfortable position of trying to manage growing paranoia among the council membership. The Gromar had begun reinforcing their mining stations. The Veilthans had quietly increased patrols along their borders. Even the peaceful Netherians were asking questions about council defense capabilities. The fifth month brought the revelation that changed everything. A Veilthan intelligence ship monitoring human space detected massive construction projects in the Sol system. The energy signatures and material movements indicated shipbuilding on an unprecedented scale. "How many vessels are they constructing?" Chancellor Vrex asked during the emergency briefing. Captain Reyes A of Veilthan Intelligence consulted her reports with obvious discomfort. "Based on our long-range scans, we estimate between 2,000 and 3,000 vessels of various classes. The construction appears to be accelerating." The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. The largest fleet in Council history belonged to the Altarian Navy, with just over 800 ships accumulated over centuries of gradual expansion. The humans were building a fleet that would dwarf the combined naval forces of the entire Council. "They're preparing for invasion," declared Admiral Kestan. "No species builds that many warships for peaceful purposes." "Unless they face a threat we don't understand," Zethkri interjected. "Humans evolved on a dangerous world. Perhaps they view large defensive fleets as normal precautions." The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Council began quietly preparing for the possibility of human aggression. Defense fleets were repositioned, and emergency protocols were reviewed. Member species started reinforcing critical installations and updating their defensive systems. Meanwhile, human diplomatic missions continued their visits, seemingly unaware of the growing tension. Their representatives remained friendly and professional, asking thoughtful questions about Council history, trade practices, and member species cultures. They showed particular interest in the Council's conflict resolution procedures and its track record of maintaining peace. The sixth month arrived with the entire Council on edge. Emergency sessions had become routine, and military preparations were accelerating across known space. The humans' response was due any day, and many delegates expected a formal declaration of hostile intent. Instead, they received a simple message from Dr. Webb: "Humanity has completed its review of Council membership. We will present our response at the originally scheduled diplomatic conference. We look forward to continued discussions with our galactic neighbors." The scheduled conference was to be held aboard Harmony's Edge again, in the same chamber where humanity had first received the invitation. But, this time, Council security was at maximum alert. Defense ships surrounded the station, and every delegate was accompanied by military advisors. Chancellor Vrex reviewed the intelligence reports one final time as she prepared for what might be humanity's declaration of war against the galactic community. The humans had built the most powerful fleet in known history, had conducted systematic intelligence gathering across Council space, and had established independent relationships with member species outside Council oversight. Whatever the humans were planning, the galaxy was about to change forever. The Council waited with weapons ready and treaties prepared, not knowing whether they were about to welcome new allies or face the greatest threat in their civilization's history. The humans had skipped the traditional diplomatic process, and now they were returning with capabilities that defied every assumption about newly spacefaring species. In just a few hours, humanity would reveal its true intentions to the galaxy. The Council could only hope they were prepared for whatever came next. The long-range sensors aboard Harmony's Edge began registering contacts 18 hours before the scheduled conference. At first, the readings seemed like equipment malfunctions. No single species had ever approached the neutral station with so many vessels. "Confirm those numbers," Chancellor Vrex ordered, her voice tight with tension. Captain Reyes A of Station Security stared at her displays in disbelief. "Confirmed, Chancellor. We're detecting over 1,500 human vessels on approach vectors. The formation extends across 3 light hours of space. The main display showed a tactical overview that made every delegate in the emergency briefing room fall silent. The human fleet wasn't simply large, it was massive beyond anything in recorded galactic history. Ships of every conceivable class moved in perfect formation, massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed Council battleships, sleek destroyers bristling with weapon arrays, carrier vessels large enough to house entire populations, and support ships whose purpose could only be guessed at.
"This is impossible," whispered Admiral Kestan.
"No single species can construct that many vessels in 6 months." Zethkri studied the formation data with professional fascination despite his fear.
"Look at the organization," he said quietly. "This isn't a hastily assembled invasion force.
Every ship knows exactly where it belongs. This level of coordination requires years of planning and training."
Chancellor Vrex activated the station's emergency protocols. "Send immediate alerts to all member governments. Priority Alpha classification.
The human fleet is approaching in numbers that suggest imminent large-scale military action." Across Council space, emergency sessions convened on dozens of worlds. The Gromar sealed their mining stations and activated automated defenses. The Veilthans recalled their exploration fleets and fortified their core systems. The Netherians began evacuating their frontier colonies while the Eltarians mobilized their reserve forces for the first time in 3 centuries. But, as the human fleet drew closer, something unexpected became apparent. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the humans maintained perfect formation discipline and broadcast continuous friendship signals on all diplomatic frequencies. Their lead vessels transmitted detailed navigation data to prevent any accidental collisions with station traffic.
"Admiral Chen requesting permission to dock," announced the communications officer. "Single vessel only. The remainder of the fleet will maintain station at respectful distances."
The request was so normal, so polite, that it took Chancellor Vrex a moment to process it.
"They want to dock? Just one ship?" "Yes, ma'am. The UES Concordia is requesting the same docking bay used during their previous visit."
The Council's military advisors argued for immediate rejection, but Chancellor Vrex found herself curious despite the circumstances. "Grant permission, but maintain full security protocols. I want to see what Admiral Chen has to say for herself." The UES Concordia approached the station with the same careful precision as before, but now every delegate knew it was backed by the most powerful military force in galactic history. The docking bay was surrounded by security forces from a dozen species, all trying to project strength while privately wondering if their weapons could even damage human technology.
Admiral Chen emerged from her ship accompanied by the same small diplomatic party as before.
Dr. Webb, Commander Park, and Dr. Okafor moved with the same professional confidence, showing no signs of stress despite bringing what appeared to be an invasion fleet to a diplomatic meeting. "Honorable Chancellor," Admiral Chen said, offering a formal bow to Vrex.
"Thank you for accommodating our unconventional arrival.
I realize our fleet size may have caused some concern."
"Some concern," spluttered Representative Zelmar. "You've brought enough firepower to conquer half the galaxy. What possible diplomatic purpose requires such a massive military presence?" Admiral Chen exchanged glances with Dr. Webb before responding.
"Perhaps it would be better if we explained during the formal session.
Our presentation will address all questions about humanity's intentions."
The conference chamber had been modified since the previous meeting. Security barriers surrounded the speaking areas, and weapon sensors monitored every participant. Council military advisors stood ready to coordinate defense responses, while emergency communication links connected the station to fleet commanders throughout Council space.
Dr.
Webb took his position at the central podium, the same spot where he had received the Council's invitation 6 months earlier. But now the chamber was filled with tension instead of celebration. Every delegate suspected they were about to witness either humanity's declaration of conquest or some elaborate deception. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Dr. Webb began, his voice carrying the same calm professionalism as before. 6 months ago, you graciously invited humanity to join your alliance. Today, I am pleased to announce that Earth accepts your invitation and looks forward to full membership in the Galactic Council." The simple statement struck the chamber like a physical blow. After months of military preparations and intelligence reports suggesting human aggression, the straightforward acceptance seemed impossible to process.
You accept? Chancellor Vrex managed.
But, your fleet, the military preparations, what does this mean? Dr. Webb smiled, and, for the first time since first contact, he seemed genuinely relaxed. That brings us to humanity's contribution to Council security and prosperity.
May I present Admiral Chen for a detailed briefing?
Admiral Chen stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed detailed star charts of Council space. But, these weren't the standard navigation charts used by most species. These maps showed threat assessments, defensive vulnerabilities, and strategic analysis of every system in the galaxy. Distinguished delegates, Admiral Chen began, humanity spent the past 6 months conducting the most comprehensive security analysis in galactic history. What we discovered should concern every member of this alliance. The holographic display shifted to show the galaxy's outer rim, beyond Council space. Dark regions marked unknown territory suddenly lit up with red indicators showing massive energy signatures and artificial structures. The Council's expansion has been peaceful and gradual, which is admirable, Admiral Chen continued.
But, this approach has left you completely unaware of several emerging threats that could destabilize or destroy galactic civilization.
She pointed to a cluster of red indicators along the galaxy's eastern spiral arm. We've identified at least 3 separate species with expansionist philosophies and military capabilities that exceed anything in Council space. They haven't contacted you yet because they're still building the fleets necessary for large-scale conquest. The chamber erupted in shocked voices as delegates tried to process this information. The Council had always assumed that any species capable of interstellar travel would eventually make peaceful contact, just as all previous members had done.
How do you know this? Demanded Admiral Kestan. Our long-range surveys have never detected these civilizations.
Commander Park stepped forward, her cybernetic implants glowing as she accessed data files.
Human sensor technology developed along different principles than yours.
We prioritize detection and analysis of potential threats rather than exploration of friendly contacts. Our ships can identify artificial energy signatures from significantly greater distances. The display showed detailed scans of massive shipyards, orbital fortifications, and fleet movements in previously unknown regions of space. The scale of military construction visible in the images dwarfed even humanity's recent building program. The hegemony of Vartok, Admiral Chen said, highlighting one cluster of threats.
A warrior culture that views conquest as a religious duty.
Current fleet strength estimated at over 4,000 vessels, with expansion continuing rapidly.
They appear to be preparing for a major campaign into this region of the galaxy.
She shifted to another area.
The collective of Zarthal. A hive-minded species that assimilates other civilizations into their neural network.
They've consumed at least 12 systems in the past 50 years and show no signs of slowing their expansion. The third threat appeared on the display as she continued.
The Empire of Keth Moran. Technological supremacists who consider all other species primitive and suitable only for slavery or extinction. Their weapons technology appears to be significantly more advanced than current Council standards. Zethkri found his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. How did you gather this intelligence without triggering first contact protocols?
Approaching any of these civilizations should have resulted in immediate detection.
Dr. Okafor smiled grimly. Human vessels are designed for stealth reconnaissance in hostile environments.
We observed from significant distances using passive sensors and unmanned probes. None of these species are aware of our existence, which gives the Council a crucial strategic advantage.
Chancellor Vrex struggled to process the implications. You're saying that while we've been peacefully expanding and welcoming new members, hostile civilizations have been preparing to invade our space?
Exactly, Admiral Chen confirmed. Based on our analysis, the Vartok hegemony will likely begin their expansion into Council territory within 18 months.
The Zarthal Collective is approximately 2 years away from reaching your outer systems.
The Kethmoran Empire appears to be developing new weapons systems before beginning their conquest campaign.
The chamber fell silent as the reality of the situation sank in.
The Council had spent over a millennium building a peaceful alliance based on cooperation and mutual benefit. They had no experience with species that viewed other civilizations as enemies to be destroyed rather than potential friends to be welcomed.
What does humanity propose? Chancellor Vrex asked quietly. Admiral Chen's expression became grimly determined. The fleet currently surrounding this station represents humanity's contribution to Council defense.
1,500 ships specifically designed for combat against technologically advanced opponents. Our shipyards are continuing production at maximum capacity, with an additional 1,000 vessels expected within the next year. She gestured toward the tactical display. Human military doctrine is based on the assumption that peace must be defended with strength. We propose a complete restructuring of Council defense capabilities, combined with an aggressive intelligence gathering program to monitor potential threats. Representative Zelmar leaned forward.
You're talking about militarizing the Council.
Our alliance has maintained peace for over 1,000 years through diplomacy and cooperation.
And those methods will continue to be our preferred approach, Dr. Webb interjected.
But diplomacy only works when both sides are willing to talk rather than fight. The species we've identified have no interest in peaceful coexistence.
Commander Park activated another set of displays showing detailed technical specifications. Human weapons technology has been developed specifically to counter the threats we've identified. Our analysis of Vartok vessels shows vulnerabilities to certain energy frequencies.
Zarthal ships appear to rely on collective coordination that can be disrupted through targeted electronic warfare.
The Kethmoran Empire's advanced weapons have specific power requirements that can be exploited. Admiral Kestan studied the technical data with professional interest.
These weapon systems are far more advanced than our current military technology.
How did humanity develop such capabilities so quickly? Admiral Chen's expression became grim. Because humans have been fighting wars among ourselves for our entire history.
We understand military technology because we've never had the luxury of assuming peace was permanent. When we reached space, we brought those hard-learned lessons with us. The truth of humanity's past hung in the air like a challenge. Every other species in the Council had achieved interstellar travel through cooperation and shared resources. Humanity had reached the stars while still divided into competing nations, each maintaining military forces against potential enemies. So humanity's contribution to Council membership is military supremacy, asked Senator Cleth of the Netherian Republic. Our contribution is the survival of galactic civilization, Admiral Chen replied simply. The threats approaching Council space are real, immediate, and overwhelming.
Without coordinated defense, every world represented in this chamber will be conquered or destroyed within the next 5 years. Dr. Webb stepped forward again. Humanity requests full Council membership with authority to coordinate defensive preparations.
We're willing to share our military technology with all member species and train Council forces in advanced combat tactics.
In return, we need access to Council industrial resources and scientific expertise to maximize our defensive capabilities. The proposal was staggering in its implications. Humanity was offering to become the Council's military protector while requesting unprecedented integration with galactic civilization. It meant transforming a peaceful alliance into a defensive confederation capable of surviving in a hostile galaxy. Chancellor Vrex looked around the chamber at her fellow delegates.
Fear, uncertainty, and calculation showed on dozens of different faces as species tried to process humanity's revelations and proposals. The Council will need time to consider this information, she said finally. The implications of your discoveries affect every member civilization.
Of course, Admiral Chen agreed.
But, I must stress that time is not our ally.
The Vartok hegemony's expansion timeline suggests we have less than 2 years to prepare adequate defenses.
Every month of delay reduces our chances of successful resistance. The human delegation departed as efficiently as they had arrived, but this time they left behind detailed intelligence files, technical specifications, and strategic assessments that would keep Council analysts busy for months. The massive fleet maintained its positions around the station, a visible reminder of humanity's capabilities and commitment to galactic defense. As the delegates dispersed to consult with their governments, one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had revealed threats that made Council civilization's survival uncertain, while simultaneously offering the tools and knowledge necessary for defense. The choice facing the Council was simple in concept but staggering in execution: embrace humanity's military partnership and transform their peaceful alliance into a defensive powerhouse, or maintain their traditional approach and face the approaching threats alone.
Either way, the age of peaceful expansion was ending. The galaxy was about to discover whether cooperation and human military expertise could preserve civilization against enemies who viewed conquest as their divine right.
18 months after humanity's shocking revelation about galactic threats, the war everyone feared had begun.
But it wasn't unfolding as anyone had expected. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching tactical displays that showed the largest space battle in galactic history.
Around her, officers from a dozen different species worked together with efficiency that would have been impossible before the military integration program. The Council had voted to accept humanity's defense proposals, and the transformation of galactic civilization was now being tested in the fires of actual combat. Vartok Assault Group approaching Sector 7, reported Commander THYSS, the Veilthan tactical officer. Her musical voice carried tension despite months of joint training with human forces. Estimated strength, 200 vessels, heavy configuration. Gromar mining platforms report successful conversion to artillery positions, added Captain Grextalk from the engineering station. His species' industrial expertise had proven invaluable in rapidly constructing defensive installations throughout Council space.
Targeting solutions locked and ready.
Chen nodded, studying the tactical situation with calm professionalism. The Vartok hegemony had indeed begun their expansion campaign exactly when human intelligence predicted, but they had encountered something unprecedented in their warrior culture's history: organized, coordinated resistance that matched their military capabilities.
Execute defensive pattern Omega-7, Chen ordered. All Council forces coordinate with human battle groups as practiced.
The response was immediate and devastating. Human ships materialized from stealth positions throughout the sector, their weapons targeting the specific vulnerabilities that months of analysis had revealed. Simultaneously, converted Gromar platforms opened fire with artillery systems that combined human targeting technology with alien industrial power. Veilthan interceptors used their superior speed to harass the Vartok flanks while Netherian electronic warfare specialists disrupted enemy communications. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vartok assault group had been completely destroyed while Council forces suffered minimal casualties. More importantly, they had captured several enemy vessels intact, providing valuable intelligence about hegemony technology and tactics. "Admiral," came Dr. Yitha's voice over the communication channel from the command station. "The Altarian analysis team has completed the initial examination of captured Vartok data systems. Their military doctrine appears to have no contingency for facing coordinated resistance from multiple species."
Chen smiled grimly. The Vartok hegemony had expanded across dozens of systems by conquering isolated civilizations one at a time. They had never faced an alliance that could combine different species' strengths into unified military action.
"What's the status of the other fronts?"
Chen asked.
Commander Park's cybernetic implants flickered as she accessed the galactic communication network.
The Zarthal Collective's probe fleet encountered Admiral Kastan's task force near the Kronos system. Their hive-mind coordination proved vulnerable to human electronic warfare exactly as predicted. Enemy forces were forced to retreat after sustaining heavy losses.
The integration of human military technology with Council capabilities had exceeded even the most optimistic projections. Species that had never considered warfare found themselves capable of sophisticated military operations when supported by human training and equipment. The peaceful Netherians had become exceptional electronic warfare specialists, their natural empathy allowing them to predict and counter enemy communication patterns. The industrial Gromar had transformed their mining operations into massive weapons production facilities that could construct military equipment faster than anyone had thought possible.
"And the Keth-Moran Empire?" Chen inquired.
"No direct contact yet," Commander Park reported. "But our reconnaissance networks indicate they're accelerating their technological development program.
Intelligence suggests they're concerned by reports of the Vartok defeats."
Dr. Webb's voice joined the conversation from his position aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony.
"The psychological impact of our victories is spreading beyond just the immediate threats. were receiving contact requests from 17 different species in the outer territories.
Word about the Council's new defensive capabilities is encouraging other civilizations to seek alliance rather than face potential conquest alone. The transformation of galactic politics was as dramatic as the military changes.
Humanity's revelation about external threats had fundamentally altered how species viewed interstellar relations.
The Council was no longer just a peaceful trading alliance, it had become a defensive confederation that offered protection and partnership to any civilization willing to contribute to mutual security. Zethkri's research teams had made remarkable discoveries during the integration process. Each species brought unique capabilities that, when combined with human strategic thinking, created synergistic effects no one had anticipated.
Altarian philosophical traditions had enhanced human tactical planning by introducing concepts of long-term consequence analysis.
Vailthan exploration expertise had revolutionized reconnaissance operations. Even the newest council members were finding ways to contribute to the collective defense effort. Admiral Chen came a transmission from Chancellor Vrex aboard the Council's new mobile command station. The emergency session has concluded.
All member governments have voted to authorize the Expanded Defense Initiative.
The Expanded Initiative represented humanity's next proposal. Instead of simply defending Council space, the Alliance would begin actively protecting neutral civilizations from conquest. The strategy was ambitious and risky, but the alternative was allowing hostile empires to absorb potential allies before they could join the defensive confederation.
Understood, Chancellor, Chen replied. Human forces are ready to begin liberation operations on your command.
The first liberation mission launched 3 days later. Target, the Zelani system, where a peaceful exploration-focused species was under attack by Vartok advance forces. The mission would test whether the Council's new military capabilities could be used for offensive operations designed to protect rather than conquer. Admiral Chen commanded the operation from the bridge of the UES Defiant, but the Liberation Fleet included vessels from 8 different species. The diversity of the force was its greatest strength. Each species contributed capabilities that the others lacked, creating a combined force more effective than the sum of its parts.
The approach to the Zelani system was a masterpiece of coordination. Vailthan scouts identified Vartok positions while remaining undetected.
Gromar heavy assault vessels provided firepower to break enemy formations.
Altarian vessels used their advanced shielding technology to protect the fleet during the initial engagement.
Human ships coordinated the overall battle plan while providing specialized weapons systems designed to counter Vartok technology. The Vartok forces in the Zelani system had been conducting a systematic conquest of the peaceful inhabitants. Their warrior culture viewed the exploration-focused Zelani as easy prey, suitable only for enslavement or elimination. They were completely unprepared for the arrival of a coordinated military force that understood their tactics and capabilities. The liberation battle lasted less than 4 hours. Vartok vessels found themselves under attack from directions they hadn't anticipated, using weapons that exploited weaknesses they didn't know they had, coordinated by multiple species working in perfect unity. The few hegemony ships that survived the engagement fled the system in chaos. But the true success of the mission became apparent in the aftermath.
The Zelani people, grateful for their rescue, immediately petitioned for council membership.
More importantly, their unique expertise in stellar cartography and long-range navigation enhanced the Alliance's ability to monitor and respond to threats across the galaxy.
This is the pattern we need to establish, Dr. Webb explained during the post-mission briefing.
Every successful liberation operation expands our alliance, increases our capabilities, and demonstrates to potential aggressors that conquest comes with unacceptable costs. The psychological impact of the liberation operations proved as important as the military results. Species throughout the galaxy began to see the Council not as a collection of peaceful traders, but as a powerful alliance capable of protecting its members and allies. The Vartok hegemony, accustomed to easy victories, found themselves facing coordinated resistance everywhere they attempted expansion.
6 months after the first liberation mission, the strategic situation had reversed completely.
The Vartok hegemony was losing systems faster than they could conquer new ones. The Zarthal Collective had ceased expansion entirely, focusing their resources on defending their existing territory. Even the mysterious Kethmoran Empire had begun diplomatic contacts, apparently recognizing that conquest was no longer the guaranteed path to galactic dominance. Status report: Admiral Chan requested during the regular strategic briefing aboard the flagship UES Terra. Commander Park's cybernetic systems flickered as she accessed the latest intelligence. The Vartok hegemony has requested peace negotiations through intermediary species. Their warrior culture is struggling to adapt to consistent military defeats. Intelligence suggests internal political turmoil as their leadership debates whether to continue expansion attempts. The Zarthal Collective has gone completely defensive, added Captain Reyes A. No probe fleets have been detected beyond their established borders for the past 3 months. Their hive mind appears to be reconsidering the cost-benefit analysis of expansion. Dr. Okafor reported from the science station. Most importantly, we've identified 43 new species that have initiated contact with Council representatives. The reputation of our defensive alliance is spreading faster than any physical expansion could achieve. The transformation was remarkable. In less than 2 years, humanity had taken a peaceful trading alliance and created a galactic confederation capable of defending civilization against any threat. But the success came with responsibilities that no one had fully anticipated. Chancellor Vrex's image appeared on the main display from her office aboard the Council's diplomatic flagship. Admiral Chen, we've received formal requests for protection from over 100 neutral systems. Our success has created expectations that may exceed our current capabilities. Chen considered the implications carefully. Success had brought new challenges. The Alliance was becoming responsible for protecting an ever-expanding region of space, while potentially hostile empires were adapting their strategies to account for coordinated resistance. We need to accelerate the integration program, Chen decided. Every species that joins our alliance increases our defensive capabilities exponentially. The mathematics favor expansion over consolidation. Dr. Webb joined the conversation from the Diplomatic Operations Center. I agree, but we need to be selective about which civilizations we prioritize. Species with unique technological capabilities or strategic locations should receive priority for integration assistance. The next phase of galactic transformation began immediately. Human technology transfer programs helped allied species develop their own defensive capabilities rather than relying entirely on human protection. The goal was creating a self-reinforcing network where each member species contributed to collective security while developing their own capacity for defense. The results exceeded all expectations. The Altarians developed philosophical frameworks that enhanced strategic planning across all member species. The Gromar created industrial techniques that allowed rapid construction of military equipment using readily available materials. The Veilthans revolutionized exploration methods that provided early warning of potential threats. Even more importantly, species that had never considered military applications began contributing unique capabilities. The empathic Netherians became exceptional at predicting enemy psychological responses. The mathematical Zephyrians developed computational systems that could model complex battle scenarios with unprecedented accuracy. 1 year later, the Council Defense Forces included over 3,000 vessels representing 28 different species, each contributing specialized capabilities to a unified military structure. The transformation of galactic civilization was complete. Peaceful expansion had given way to defensive confederation, creating the most powerful military alliance in known history. The former threats had been neutralized or converted into potential diplomatic partners. The Vartok hegemony had signed non-aggression treaties and begun trading negotiations. The Zarthal Collective had requested observer status in council proceedings. Even the Kethmoran Empire had indicated interest in technological exchange programs. But, perhaps the most significant change was philosophical. Species throughout the galaxy had learned that peaceful cooperation could create military capabilities superior to any conquest-based empire. The Council had proven that diversity was strength, that different species working together could accomplish things none could achieve alone. Standing on the observation deck of the UES Terra, Admiral Chen watched the mixed fleet conducting training exercises in the Altarian system. Human vessels worked alongside alien designs in formations that would have been impossible before first contact. The site represented something unprecedented in galactic history, a military alliance based on mutual protection rather than conquest, capable of defending civilization against any threat while preserving the diversity that made each species unique.
Humanity had indeed skipped the traditional diplomatic talks.
Instead of slowly integrating into existing galactic civilization, they had transformed it into something capable of surviving in a hostile universe. The galaxy was safer, stronger, and more united than ever before. And, in the end, that was the most human thing of all, taking a peaceful alliance and giving it the tools to remain peaceful in a dangerous galaxy.